A colossal glacier is relentlessly sweeping across the Earth, freezing entire cities in an instant and turning them into frozen wastelands. A team of scientists is cautiously making its way across a vast glacier. They report back to base about a sudden series of volcanic eruptions and warn that an urgent evacuation may be necessary if the situation drastically worsens. Meanwhile, a man is driving with his son and daughter. The boy nervously tries to reach someone over the radio, but no one responds. They finally arrive at the airport, where the daughter is supposed to catch a flight to New York. Just then, a scientist finally comes through on the radio. On the glacier, he's carefully packing up equipment into a helicopter. Distracted by a call with a concerned colleague, the man ignores his daughter, and she leaves the car without saying goodbye. Divya, the scientist, explains that the rest of the team has already evacuated safely. The glacier they were studying has gone completely unstable. Volcanic eruptions are happening violently all across its surface. He's already sent all the data to the man's office. Bill, the father, says he can't access the report right now and asks his son to open the laptop and load the complex computer model. The call suddenly cuts off. Divya continues packing, but suddenly there's a loud explosion nearby. He drops everything, jumps into the helicopter, and takes off. From the air, he sees the full scale of the disaster. An entire volcanic ridge has erupted, and a massive 200-mile-wide ice shelf is breaking apart rapidly. He immediately reports this to Bill, but the signal abruptly goes dead. Divya's helicopter crashes. Finally realizing his daughter has left, Bill decides to head to his office quickly. On the way, he talks with his son, saying he's not entirely sure what just happened, but it's likely something far worse than a single volcanic eruption. He leaves the boy in the car and goes inside. A colleague urgently urges him to leave the state with his family immediately. Massive chunks of ice are already falling unpredictably across Canada, and in just 19 hours, the glacier will reach North America. Back in the car, Bill and his son carefully review the latest data on his computer. Then he makes a critical decision. They absolutely have to go get his wife. At the same time, his wife is briefing a high-ranking senator on the rapidly unfolding crisis. All flights have been grounded due to the thick ash cloud. The senator calmly asks her to contact Washington and find out whether the international summit will be postponed. Noticing her visible distress, he gently remembers that her daughter flew to New York today. He reassures her, everything will be fine. The eruptions are all happening far away in Greenland. Grateful for his comforting words, she steps into the quiet hallway, and suddenly hears her husband's voice. He's come to get her. Bill urgently tells Terry about the massive glacier heading their way. She brushes it off, thinking he's exaggerating again. But moments later, a trusted colleague informs her that all communications are down. Even the White House isn't answering. Realizing how serious things have quickly become, she agrees to leave immediately with Bill and their son. At the same time, the Air Force is tracking the glacier's rapid movement. They watch as the massive ice formation races dangerously toward the east coast of North America, bringing with it severe blizzards and massive hailstorms. On the tense drive, Terry is growing increasingly worried about her daughter. She tries to call her, but Julia is on a plane, and there's no signal. Suddenly, Nelson notices something strange in the sky. It's covered with ominous, storm-like clouds. Following his son's anxious gaze, Bill suddenly pulls a sharp U-turn. He decides they're not going home. Those dark clouds are caused by the glacier, and they urgently need to head straight to New York to find Julia. It'll take them about 7 to 8 hours. Meanwhile in New York, Julia meets up with her boyfriend. Just as they warmly embrace, her phone suddenly rings, but she quickly ignores the call. Unable to reach her daughter, Terry leaves a worried voicemail, telling her to stay safely in her dorm. They're on their way to pick her up. The weather is rapidly getting much worse. Suddenly, it starts snowing heavily and relentlessly. Bill tries to get the family out of the city, but they immediately hit gridlock. He tells his son to quickly look for an alternate route. Just then, military F-16s roar loudly overhead. The pilots are scanning carefully for the glacier, but when they reach the reported coordinates, it's nowhere in sight. Then, without any warning, towering ice peaks suddenly rise before them. Some pilots fail to gain altitude and tragically crash into the ice, while others release powerful payloads in an attempt to break the glacier apart. Back on the highway, Bill and his family are still stuck helplessly in traffic, until giant chunks of ice suddenly begin crashing down violently onto nearby cars. Reacting fast, Bill throws the car into reverse, trying desperately to get away. But the same terrifying thing is happening all over the city. Enormous ice boulders are smashing into homes and streets, leaving widespread destruction in their wake. Managing to escape the jam, the family continues their dangerous journey. A blizzard is raging fiercely around them, and the windows are iced over so badly they can barely see a thing. Then Terry's phone rings again. It's Julia. She finally got through. Terry pleads urgently with her daughter to stay in the dorm. They're coming and will be there very soon. Before she can say more, the call suddenly drops. The Air Force continues desperately trying to divert or destroy the glacier, but nothing is working. Terry tries calling Julia again, desperate to reach her, but there's no signal. She tries contacting anyone nearby, but gets no response. Distracted by a tense conversation with his son, Bill doesn't see the cars piled up ahead, and the family slams full speed into the traffic jam. Chaos and panic quickly erupt inside the dorm. Julia runs into her close friend, who's frantically trying to reach her family on the phone. A guy suggests everyone head down to the basement for safety, but Karen refuses. Logan grabs Julia and leads her away, while the girl returns to her room to grab a few things. Suddenly, a blast of icy wind shatters every window in the building, and shards of glass fatally wound Karen. Meanwhile, the guy realizes the dorm isn't safe anymore. They have to leave immediately. Julia records a voice message for her family, telling them exactly where she's headed. But just as she sends it, the signal cuts out. She has no idea if the message went through. Logan suggests they get to the subway and try to escape the city through the dark tunnels. Elsewhere, Bill regains consciousness and slowly crawls out of the car, helping the others get free. Thankfully, no one is seriously hurt. He tells them they need to keep moving and find another reliable vehicle. Not far down the road, they come across an empty van. Bill gets his wife and son inside, then heads off to scout the area. Luck is on their side. Nelson finds the keys in the ignition and, after a few tries, gets the van running. Just then, Bill returns with bad news. A massive dangerous pileup ahead is blocking the road, but he has an idea. In the van's trunk, he finds a rusty bucket and several types of fertilizer. Mixing them carefully with diesel and placing gas canisters on top, he rigs an improvised powerful explosive. It works. The blast clears the path efficiently. As soon as the road is open, they keep driving cautiously. After a while, Terry's phone suddenly picks up a weak flickering signal, and she receives Julia's urgent message. Suddenly, the ground violently shakes from a distant explosion. Over the radio, Nelson hears that the military is trying desperately to blow up the glacier. If they fail, Boston is next in line for total destruction. Bill suspects the Air Force might have a shot at breaking it up, but only with extremely powerful nuclear weapons. That means they need to get moving fast and without delay. The military keeps launching continuous relentless attacks, but so far, nothing works. Cities are spiraling quickly into chaos. People freeze where they stand, turning eerily into ice statues. Freezing winds shatter windows and bring buildings crashing down all around. As they drive, the family suddenly spots a group of terrified people standing helplessly on the roadside. Bill wants to stop and help, but Terry strongly disagrees. While they argue, a massive chunk of ice crashes down, burying the people beneath. In shock, Bill slams the gas and drives off, putting some dangerous distance between them and the deadly storm. Meanwhile, Julia and Logan push through the chaotic city, fighting their way through crowds of terrified people. They finally make it to the subway tunnels. Julia is shaken, terrified her parents won't be able to find her. Back on the road, Bill notices the fuel gauge is near empty, and everyone is famished and starving. They need a gas station, fast. The boy tells his parents how scared he is. It's as dark as night outside, even though it's still daytime. Then Terry spots a car on the side of the road and urgently urges Bill to stop. He gets out to check it and finds a lifeless, motionless dead man behind the wheel. Draining the car's fuel into their van, Bill quickly refuels and gets them back on the road, heading toward New York. Meanwhile, Julia and Logan are making their way cautiously through the subway tunnels. They hear strange echoing noises, and Logan realizes things are getting worse. They need to keep moving. As they drive through Connecticut, Bill confesses quietly to Terry that he didn't even get the chance to say goodbye to their daughter. Terry reassures him, they'll see her soon. Up ahead, Bill spots a long traffic jam. He pulls over and gets out to assess the situation and carefully check if the water in the strait has frozen over. But after testing it, he decides the ice is still too thin and unstable. On his way back to the van, he runs into a mysterious man who offers to travel with them to California. Bill firmly declines. Frustrated that no one is listening to him, the stranger, Gary, pulls a gun and aggressively forces the family out of their van. As Gary drives off across the frozen strait, Nelson suddenly remembers he left his radio in the back. Ignoring his parents' frantic screams, he takes off after the van, catches up, and grabs his belongings through the rear door. His parents catch up and scold him harshly, begging him never to do anything so reckless like that again. Just then, the ice begins to crack loudly, and the van, with Gary inside, plunges into the freezing, dark water. Bill and his family sprint back to shore. Once on land, they quickly resume their desperate search for a new vehicle. Back in the tunnels, Logan and Julia manage to reach the Lincoln Tunnel. Emerging on the other side, they find a massive mass of abandoned cars. Logan points out that if they keep going, they'll reach New Jersey. It's about a mile away. Walking cautiously along the road, Bill and his family come across a deserted house. They go inside and find it empty. They decide to take some food and warm clothes. In one of the rooms, Terry finds children's drawings and toys. She hugs a worn teddy bear, breaks down in tears, and promises her daughter that no matter what, she'll find her. As they gather what they need and prepare to leave, they spot a boy sitting on the cracked steps. He tells them his father needs help and leads them to the garage, where his dad is trapped under a fallen rusty shelf. They manage to free him, and the man, Gerald, offers to take them west. But Bill refuses. He's going to find his daughter in New York, no matter the challenge. Instead, Gerald offers them his small plane, and luckily, Bill knows how to fly. Despite the danger, Terry and Nelson decide to go with him. They climb into the plane and take off, heading toward their daughter. After escaping the Lincoln Tunnel, Logan and Julia finally make it to New Jersey. High in the stormy sky, Bill pilots the plane through a fierce snowstorm and tornadoes. They rise above the thick clouds and spot U.S. Air Force planes in the far distance. Meanwhile, the military is once again attempting to destroy the glacier. A helicopter drops soldiers onto the ice, and they begin planting explosives carefully. Julia and Logan run through the empty streets, desperately searching for shelter, but every door is locked. Suddenly, a man jumps out and tries to steal their warm clothes. Before he can do anything, a patrol officer intervenes and scares him off. The officer is shocked to find anyone still on the streets. He tells them the city's been evacuated and takes them to an emergency warming evacuation center for safety. As they're flying, Bill asks his son to check how quickly far the glacier is from them. He finds out it's only 164 feet away and moving at 186 miles per hour. Suddenly, Bill notices the plane's wings are icing over. He asks if anyone can spot an airstrip nearby, but visibility is almost terrible. Then he sees the fuel gauge, they're almost out. With no other options, he decides to make an emergency precise landing. Meanwhile, Julia and Logan arrive at a shelter. There, she learns that Logan's father is in Northern Europe, near Oslo, but those regions were hit first, and chances are, he didn't survive. Bill tries to contact New York Air Traffic Control, but no one answers. Realizing there's no time, he brings the plane down on a runway. Out of nowhere, a commercial airliner appears in their path. They narrowly avoid a collision, but in the next instant, they crash into a block of thick ice. After making sure everyone's okay, they get out of the plane and move a short distance away before it explodes. A nearby officer checks if they're hurt and offers to escort them to safety. The military continues its efforts to stop the glacier by detonating explosives, but once again, it fails. Shards of ice are launched into the air by the blast, hitting a helicopter and raining down on the city. In the shelter, Logan and Julia realize it's no longer safe and decide to find another secure place to hide. They move quickly through the narrow alleys, listening for any sounds of danger. Outside, the cold wind howls, making it harder to breathe. Suddenly, they hear a distant rumble, signaling the glacier is moving closer than before. As soon as the family reaches safety, a woman tells them the National Guard will be evacuating them soon, but before she can finish, a chunk of a collapsing, crumbling building crushes her. In a nearby hangar, Nelson finds a car and decides to drive into the city. When they reach a bridge, a police officer stops them. The Washington Bridge has collapsed, and they're not allowed into New York. He also warns them the military is preparing one final devastating strike. Unsure of what to do next, Bill thinks back to his kids' childhood, how they were always running around, and he used to joke about putting tracking devices on them. That sparks an unexpected idea. They may not be able to reach Julia, but they can track her phone. They discover she's in New Jersey, just a few miles away, and head out to find her. When they hit another massive traffic jam, Bill decides to abandon the car. His daughter is only a few blocks away. In the crowd, someone bumps into the boy and knocks the phone out of his hands. In a panic, he tries to find it, but his parents tell him they don't have time. Julia is close, and they'll find her without it. Reaching a fire escape, Bill spots a gun next to a dead man. He grabs it and climbs, yelling her name and firing shots into the air. He tries to get her attention. Exhausted and freezing, Julia hears her name through the howling storm. Emerging from a doorway, she sees her father. Reunited, the family heads back to the car with Logan. After a quick moment to think, Bill decides to drive across the frozen river. The glacier is now dangerously close. Military jets are still trying to stop it. Watching its rapid, relentless advance, Nelson says there's no way they can outrun it. Just then, massive chunks of ice start falling from the sky. Bill weaves nimbly between them, trying to get off the river. Carrie suggests heading to the Statue of Liberty and taking shelter there. Bill agrees and steers the car in that urgent direction. They reach the statue just in time and make it inside. Then the military launches its final desperate coordinated strike on the glacier. Everything goes still. The family peeks out from their hiding place and sees the entire city buried under ice and thick snow. Do you think humanity will ever learn to stand up to the forces of nature, or are we destined to always be on the run? Share your thoughts in the comments down below, give a thumbs up, and subscribe to the channel. See you in the next videos.